Hello and welcome back to Perspectives. In a packed show today, ice hockey, we know, is a passion bordering on religion for Canadians, but none more so than for an award-winning Sikh recently honoured at a San Jose Sharks game. We'll look at how Sikhs have been honoured in the game recently. And we'll look at how aid is helping Punjab's farmers after the devastating floods. We also tell the strange tale of the Scottish vlogger who inadvertently fell foul of Hindutva and, like us, not only is accused of being funded by Pakistan intelligence, but also discovered just how dangerous India truly is if you just happen to disagree with the RSS agenda. We have a terrifying analysis of the individual behind the recent attacks on the New Zealand Nagar Kirtan, which does make quite scary reading. And we look at how India's ministry is ramping up its actions on secessionism to meet a self-imposed deadline this year to remove any talk of independent states like Khalistan. All this and more on today's show. And of course, we'll take a look at loads of great comments. Presumably we've got time because there's so much to squeeze in this morning. But we'll share hopefully loads of great comments at the end of the show. So do stay tuned for those. Right, as I say, lots to get through. Let's get underway already. So let's start in the Punjab. Of course, we reported on terrible floods that occurred after the last rainy season, the last monsoon, and most of Punjab and northeastern Pakistan were completely inundated with terrible floods. Of course, that rich, fertile ground, that agricultural land that provides so much of the foodstuffs for the whole of India and beyond. And as a result of that, many livelihoods were just basically destroyed, were literally wiped away, were just flooded away when the monsoons hit very badly. And as a result of that, there have been huge amounts of charitable organisations who have helped during that terrible time, but also post-flood time, when they've actually helped rebuild and restock and reseed the region, because of course it is such a vital region, not just for the Punjabi people themselves, but of course for the whole of India, who tend to rely on this area, this breadbasket of India. And it has been reported, I saw this lovely video of, it's just, again, it's very indicative of what we see in the charitable sector. We of course have the huge charities, the global charities, the Red Cross and the Red Crescent and Save the Children, etc. But also we have these large Sikh organisations which are always there at the forefront of any humanitarian disaster, whether it's Khalsa Aid or whatever. But there are also these very tiny NGOs, these small humanitarian, in fact, organisation is even flattering to these things. They are just small units, let's call them, charitable units made up of literally one or two people who just help coordinate, facilitate, organise, help and aid. I just want to show you this video of this first one. This is an organisation, a group called Humanitet. Let me play you this video.
Hello everyone, I'm in Dera Baba Nanak's region, where Humanitet, thanks to your donations, provided this super seeder machine, which you can see behind my back. And right now, farmers are seeding wheat, which is one of the main crops here, alongside with rice and cauliflower. We also provided diesel for the machine and the seeds, obviously. The machine is very effective. It can cover 12 acres of land a day, which is a huge help. So please keep donating and hit the follow button if you want to hear more updates.
Now, if I tell you this Humanitet, it's a tiny organisation. It's a husband and wife team. And they say on their website, we're Kanwar and Jasprit, a husband and wife team with a shared heart for humanity and a deep belief in showing up where it matters. And they've got a long history, a lifelong history, a whole career in the charitable sector, helping places like this. And they said here, and again, it's a relatively tiny contribution, but it is also at the same time a massive contribution that has come genuinely from the heart. And this, if we talk about Sikh principles, again, how they align with just the generally good people of Earth. And these two people, I don't believe they are Sikhs. There's certainly no reference on their website to them being Sikhs, but they are out there helping the people of Punjab. And they say that they have purchased a super seeder, a machine that can cover up to 12 acres a day, helping farmers recover faster after these floods. And they've also provided seedlings, ensuring farmers don't just prepare the land but actually plant and harvest. And again, they talk on the website. She is a clinical pharmacist and somatic therapist. I must confess I don't know what that is. Who's worked for nearly 2 decades helping people heal, not just with medicine, but with deep nervous system support and trauma-informed care. And but basically, they're just 2 very decent human beings who are there alongside many other organisations, much larger organisations. But again, I just wanted to show this story because it's a very positive story. It's very relevant, obviously, to the Punjab, but it shows all the good people are helping in areas of terrible times of trouble and strife and disasters like post-monsoon of the last monsoon that happened. So well done to those guys. Want to just start on a positive note for a change. And talking about positive notes, I'm going to cover a second story. I said in the introduction about how hockey is a national religion for Canadians. Well, this is a guy. And this is quite a character, this guy. This is a gentleman called Harnarayan Singh. He's obviously a Sikh. He's deeply passionate about ice hockey in Canada, and he's risen up through the broadcast ranks as he's become quite a prominent media personality in what is Canada's favourite sport. And in his rise to his position, he's obviously been challenging this sort of status quo. He's obviously a bit of a newcomer into this national religion of Canada. He's got over 800 games under his belt as an NHL broadcaster, and he's known for apparently his entertaining goal calls. And his story has spread throughout the hockey world. He's become very well known, and they've allowed him to commentate on play-by-play for Hockey Night in Canada nationally on Sportsnet. He's an award-winning guy. He's won all sorts of awards, including, I'll just give you just one of several, Canadian Screen Award for Best Sports Play-by-Play Announcer, Meritorious Service Medal by the Governor-General for his contributions to Canadian society, and the list goes on. But they have this in San Jose Sharks, one of the teams in Canada. They have a Sikh Heritage Night. Every year they celebrate the Sikhs' contribution to this national passion of ice hockey, and they pay particular tribute to Harnarayan. And let me play you again. This was recently released video of Harnarayan. Let's have a look at it.
In Alberta, Canada. In 2009, he made history by becoming the first person to call NHL games in Punjabi on television for Hockey Night in Canada. He continued to break barriers in 2016 as the first Sikh Canadian to broadcast an NHL game in English, and in 2021 made his English play-by-play debut for Sportsnet and Hockey Night in Canada. That same year, Harnarayan earned the Canadian Screen Award for Best Sports Play-by-Play. Most recently, he's the author of One Game at a Time, My Journey from a Small Town to Hockey's Biggest Stage. Please join us in welcoming Harnarayan Singh to center ice. And now, could we please have a representative from both teams to center ice? Once again, please join me in thanking Harnarayan Singh for joining us tonight for the ceremonial puck drop.
Awesome. I mean, fantastic. I mean, a great tribute. Obviously, that's a very symbolic way to pay tribute to people is that sort of throwing of the puck. Forgive my complete ignorance of what it's all about. I've never played ice hockey, but it's an extraordinarily exciting game when I have watched it. And Harnarayan is well known for his Punjabi commentating as well as commentating in English. And again, the sport has paid tribute. And likewise, on a local news channel, I want to play you just a quick snippet from a news channel where they interviewed Harnarayan. And again, it just gives you a little bit of background, a bit of information about what he's up to.
1-0 Sharks after one period of play, and very pleased to be joined at the tank by my dear old friend, and I say old because we go way back, not because you're old, Harnarayan Singh, play-by-play commentator with the NHL and Sportsnet. And Harnarayan, you were here to drop the puck for Sikh Heritage Night. I think that meant a lot to you. You said you're just kind of walking on air here.
Yeah, I could never have dreamt of a moment like this, especially when I was coming to games as a youngster. It wasn't always welcoming in an NHL atmosphere just because it was a different time, and I could never have imagined having a Sikh Heritage Night and somebody like myself being now a broadcaster and dropping the puck at an NHL game. Dream come true, a really special moment.
Well, and you're here with your family, and just maybe say just a little bit more about what it means for somebody like you, for your kids to see you doing this job. When you can see it, you can be it, right?
I really feel that it gives everybody a sense of belonging in the game, right? So our community, my kids, I see the world through their eyes now, and they know that they can have a role in the game no matter what it is, no matter how they look, no matter what language they're speaking. We have people like you covering the game. It's amazing. So we finally opened that door. It's growing the game, and it's giving that much needed sense of belonging.
And again, this reference to sport being such an integral part of Sikh society, because sport, as I often say, it is the 21st century evolution of this great military heritage that the Sikh people have had over centuries, which in these days obviously manifests itself in their the prowess in sport and their interest in sport and the competitive physical joy of sport. And you can see how Hanarayan here has just embraced this whole concept of ice hockey in the same way that, for example, in California, hockey has become such a big part, and Arizona likewise. Even I have joined the Sikh community in Arizona playing hockey, and I see the sort of the passion, the interest that just the community have to turn out every week and several times a week in many cases, and the deep success, the extraordinary success that Sikhs have achieved in sport, in all sorts of sport, whether it is ice hockey, whether it is hockey itself or other sports. So it's fantastic to see that Hanarayan has been such a hugely positive ambassador both for the Sikh people and of course for sport, and he has done an awful lot of good. He's obviously done a lot of charitable work, but also particularly helping the youth, particularly the Sikh youth, get involved in this high profile sport in Canada. So well done to Hanarayan, again clearly being paid tribute by the game itself, the Sharks there, and of course that Californian sports channel. And well done to Hanarayan, and long may his microphone continue. So well done to him. Right, let's move on now. And here's a funny story. Thank you to one of my correspondents who sent me a link to a Scottish vlogger. And this it's a guy called Callum. Let me just show you. Here you go. So this is a young lad called Callum. He has a YouTube channel called Callum Abroad. And is a young lad. He goes around the world, but particularly he's focused in recent times, particularly on Pakistan, India, Afghanistan. He's done a bit, I think, in the Middle East, but he's done a few videos as part of his vlog. He's got about, I think, 100,000 subscribers on his channel, so it's not a small channel. But he produces these videos, he travels around, and again, it's just a typical travel vlog. It's fascinating. I do encourage you to go have a look at it. It's great videos. And he really gets involved. He really likes to talk to the locals. He shows a lot of local society, particularly he's been to Kashmir a lot, etc., etc. Now, as a result of this, it turns out he's fallen foul of Hindutva and the RSS because he's waded into an area. I think he didn't realise that he rather sort of almost accidentally sort of got involved in, well, I suppose indirectly the Khalistan movement, the whole J&K issue. And he's now, as a result of this, been the subject of Hindutva and the Godi media anger. He's found himself on the Indian media, just as we often report in many of these situations, where if you go against the agenda, if you happen to align with things like we align with, then the Indian state machine turns on you and turns its massive resources against you. And poor Callum has found himself in this situation, and I have actually communicated with Callum directly. Thank you to our correspondent who sent a link to Callum's vlog. As I say, I did follow this up, and I did actually communicate with Callum. We exchanged some messages, and it turns out he is being accused of being funded by ISI. He's being accused of aligning with the Khalistan movement, etc., etc. So I'm going to show you. There was one specific video where he addresses the issues that he has faced. And I'm going to play you this video. I'm going to talk you through this video. It's a long video, so it's over 20 minutes, where he addresses these issues. And I've sort of reduced it down to about 5 minutes, but I'll stop periodically, just sort of give a little bit of commentary sort of through this video. But let me start the video. You can start to get a flavour of poor Callum's experience that, of course, aligns very similarly with our own experience.
Is there anything more pathetic than the Indian media and the Indian online trolls? These people are deluded. So over the last few months, I've been accused of working for the ISI, getting paid from the Pakistani government to promote Pakistan and defame India, and a whole host of other stuff that you've maybe seen online. So I thought, why don't we sort of set the record straight here and have a little look at the Indian media and turn the lens on India.
Yes, Siddharth, look at this Scottish YouTuber whose name is Callum Abode.
This video was uploaded by the Scottish YouTuber Callum Mill. His agencies have taken note of the video.
Now, I won't go into too much detail, but basically the story is there was an Indian vlogger that he just happened to sort of bump into almost in the street, and it's to do with armed guards, etc. But as a result of this, sort of rather went against a bit of the Indian narrative. And as a result of that, he suddenly found himself being accused of all sorts of stuff, including being funded by ISI, etc. So he actually, the Indian media approached him directly, and he actually went on to Indian media, as you saw some of the many excerpts that he showed on his channel of him being interviewed and almost being cut short. Every time he sort of started to go slightly off agenda and start actually telling the truth, remember that thing, the truth, then of course they cut him short. So of course he was a bit upset about this. So as you can start to get a flavour of his attitude here, saying, look, hang on guys, just leave me alone. I'm just a vlogger. Don't turn your silly nonsense against me. He continues.
Now these trolls, they're not, these messages that I get, they're not organic. They're part of a machine backed by the BJP. BJP staffers have admitted, they've now defected, but they've now admitted that they were paid to go online and troll people, and the BJP were using government funds to pay these cells, these IT troll cells, to target opposition, to sway elections. And anybody that says anything against the BJP, against Modi's India, basically. Now, a lot of the hate turns sexual. The abuse turns sexual if you're a woman on the receiving end of it. I've happened to see this firsthand. I received it. Again, talking about my mum, saying terrible things about children. Honestly, these people are scum. They're absolute parasites. So if you go online, if you go onto Twitter, or X as it's now called, you can see hundreds, literally hundreds of posts about me, about why I've been to Indian occupied Kashmir, who I'm working for. There's even accounts, Indian men pretending to be Israeli women. I mean, bro, pick a struggle. Seriously, it really is that bad. And I've locked my accounts, I've locked my social media accounts, not because I'm running from anything or I'm scared or I'm trying to hide anything. Just because you are a pain in the ass.
I chuckle because poor Callum. He's because of what he's done, and he inadvertently has upset India by just basically reporting the truth. He's now found himself being attacked by the Hindutva IT cells. Now, of course, we know very well these IT cells that exist to just spread the pro-BJP, pro-RSS Hindutva propaganda, but also to attack anybody who dares happen to challenge the Indian agenda, to challenge the agenda of the RSS. And poor Callum, he's there doing his vlog, and suddenly his vlog, the comments are being filled with the trolls. Yes, here we go again. These are familiar. We've been here before, haven't we? It's familiar for us here on Sat Lunch. Is that these Indian trolls who are paid on a daily basis just to swarm poor victims like Callum, and of course the abuse that he's been getting. And we're very fortunate that we don't get a lot of abuse. We do get a little bit, but not much. But Callum clearly because he's not banned in India. The reason we don't get so much abuse is because we are banned in India. So actually most Indians can't actually access our channel. That's why, ironically, we're protected to some degree. But poor Callum isn't banned. His YouTube channel isn't banned in India, and his social media isn't banned in India. So which means that Indians, the Hindutva IT cells, can totally swamp his social media with horrible comments, nasty comments, and particularly what's interesting here, sexual comments about his mother, about his family, about any female member of his family. Again, the nature of these comments is so despicable, is so vile, and ironically, again, it just reflects the problem that Indian society has. I'll go off a slight tangent here, and thank you to one of our other correspondents. Thank you for sending me this link. I wasn't aware of this. There was a gentleman a few years ago in the Lok Sabha, an MP, who made a comment when they were talking about rapes, and this just is to indicate the level of sexual problems in India and how the misogyny, the hatred of women, is so embedded in Hinduism. This MP actually stood, when they were talking about women being raped in India, of course, which we know there is a pandemic of rapes of Indian women. His attitude, and he actually said this publicly, was, look, if you're a woman, you get raped, you can't do anything about it, so just lie back and enjoy it. Now, those weren't his precise words, but effectively those were his words. Lie back and enjoy it, because you can't do anything about it. I mean, it renders me speechless, but this is so embedded in the social culture of Hinduism of India. That is why people on social media, Indians and Hindutva particularly, think it's okay to make essential verbal assaults against females, whether they're Indian or whether they're related to poor Callum. So again, it just brings in that whole disgusting area, that whole pandemic of sexual deviation, let's call it. That's essentially what it is. It is sexual deviation of Indian men who have become so inured in the culture of misogyny, of the hatred of women, of the treatment of women, who not just as second-class citizens, but as submissive creatures, not even human beings in some cases. This is how many Indians see women. It's appalling. But anyway, I'm going off a slight tangent there. But you can start to see now, he also brings in that other element there of the IT cells that often adopt different persona. Been here before, yes, of course, it's familiar to our audience. How often have we reported in the comments, and commenters have said, look, there are people out there who are these fake Sikhs or these fake this and that and the other. People pretending to be others. How easy is it to set up a profile and pretend to be somebody? You can be a man pretending to be a woman, or vice versa, just to pretend to get a point across and try to give gravitas, try to give weight to your comment by pretending to be somebody that you're not. And of course, poor Callum again has experienced a very similar scenario. Anyway, let me continue because his story continues.
And they would find pictures. And they found this picture of me with the ex-Prime Minister of Azad Kashmir. Why is this guy meeting this tourist? Why is this tourist meeting the ex-Prime Minister of Azad Kashmir? Well, it was a random encounter in Coatley, and he happened to be staying in the room next to me. So we had tea, we took a photo, that was it. Nothing more, nothing less. But these people, they see this photo and they think, wow, he must be linked. There's something going on here. They're crazy. They're batshit crazy. If I call it Indian occupied Kashmir, if you check the UN Charter, if you actually go to Indian occupied Kashmir, you'll see loads and loads of military, loads of soldiers, even plain-clothed people with guns in their back, just standing in street corners, just standing there. It looks pretty occupied to me. And if you even want to go down the road of saying that Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir is a disputed area, okay, then tell the Indian government to let the people of Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir decide. Let them decide. But they won't let that happen.
Indeed, of course, he's waded into the whole J&K issue there, and he's upset India by, again, stating the truth. The actual recognition, the United Nations recognition of J&K as an Indian-occupied territory. It isn't India, it is an Indian-occupied. That's a statement of fact. It's not controversial, but it obviously is for the BJP, who's still trying to maintain it is India, when in fact it is recognised internationally by the United Nations. It is Indian-occupied territory. And of course, as a result, by referring to that phrase, it's invited, again, the Hindutva forces to form an assault on him. Again, totally unjustified assault for basically, once again, telling the truth. It just happens to go against the Indian narrative.
Honestly, it's bordering on insane, delusional. And to be quite honest with you, they're so obsessed. They're obsessed with Pakistan. When I'm in India, many people ask for the YouTube channel and they'll see that I've been in Pakistan. And they'll be like, how's Pakistan? How's Pakistan infrastructure? Do you like Pakistan better than India? What things do you like about India? What's better in India about Pakistan? Always wanting to compare. But they never, ever, ever want to compare against China.
That's an interesting comment, that. Again, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent here, but first of all, don't forget, the Indian people have one narrative. They are only fed one narrative. They're not given the truth. They are basically spoon-fed a narrative from the BJP-controlled media, the Godi media, as it's known. So ordinary Indians actually don't really know the truth. And they are fed this diet of Pakistan is the enemy. You must fear Pakistan. We must all unite to hate Pakistan. It's an old tactic of any authoritarian regime. God, we're even seeing it here in the West now, particularly under Starmer's authoritarianism here in the UK, is that we must all unite against a common enemy of, for example, Russia. Again, read George Orwell's 1984 to understand that concept. I strongly urge all of you to read. Every human being must read that book, 1984 by George Orwell. If you haven't, just go out and buy it right now and read it. It will teach you about life, the universe and everything. But anyway, here he refers to ordinary Indians constantly asking, what's it like in Pakistan? Tell us the truth. People are hungry for the truth. They want to know the truth. And but again, they're sort of feeling, is Pakistan better than us? Is it worse than us? Because they don't really know, because they are only fed this one line, this one narrative that they actually, clearly, many Indians just don't believe that it's the truth. They're hungry to know what's really happening. But the final comment, though, that Callum made about China, this is an accusation that the BJP are often accused of, is ignoring really the threat of China. China has encroached on Indian territory significantly, whether it's up in the northwest, Ladakh area, or whether it's in the northeast, that whole sort of northeastern sort of Seven Sisters sort of area. Is that is it Arunachal Pradesh? It's where China has infiltrated the villages slowly but surely, creeping southwards into Indian territory. And Modi has been accused of trying to cover up the truth here, is that he has not been robust enough in his defence of the Indian geographical border, which is ironic, bearing in mind his assertion of J&K and Punjab, and he's literally gone to brute force violence to protect those areas, those occupied areas. But when it comes to actual genuine territory, either northeast or northwest, he's taken his eye off the ball. All his critics have said, look, why are you letting China start to infiltrate and seize illegally Indian land? You're not saying anything about that. You're not doing anything about that. And of course, he's trying to bury the truth. So even ordinary Indians, the word on the street clearly is this is happening, but the media's not telling us about it. So they're having to ask people like Callum, can you please tell us the truth? Because we know we're not getting the truth from our own leaders. So again, that's again another interesting insight into what's going on the ground. Let me continue the final section.
So just a quick video there, guys, just to say that these people are crazy. I'm not getting paid off the government. I've never been paid off the government. I don't work for Pakistan intelligence. And someone must have stole my money. Where is my money?
I mean, poor Callum, as he said, he's been accused of being funded by ISI. And he said, well, where's my money? Poor Callum's trying to do his job, and he must have hidden his money, he says. But anyway, so there you go. That was his video. Now, he told me that he's often been accused of aligning and supporting the Khalistan movement. Is not. And for the record, Callum is not a Khalistani campaigner. He has nothing to do with the Khalistan campaigner. He's a simple, with all due respect to him, he's a simple, innocent vlogger. He just gets pleasure, joy out of travelling and vlogging about it, telling his travelling story. I envy him in many ways. I wish the internet existed when I travelled in those days, in the 1980s when I travelled around the same areas. But he's just he's just producing his videos for the sheer joy of travelling, meeting different cultures and experiencing travelling around these regions. He's not a Khalistani campaigner or anything, yet he suddenly found himself swept up into this thing. We are unapologetically Khalistan supporters and campaigners. We often get accused of exactly the same thing, of being funded by ISI, which for the record we're not. I wish we were, but we're not, and say, where's our money? But he's been accused of showing support for Khalistan, which he hasn't done. Interestingly, he also told me he was invited, he's met the father of Sidhu Musiwala, and he was actually invited into Sidhu Musiwala's father's home. He took some photos of this, as you would. He's a traveller. He took photos of this interesting interaction he had. But of course, the Modi trolls, Hindutva forces, found these and started spreading it across social media. Indian politicians picked up this and showed him having tea or whatever it was with Sidhu Musiwala's father. And suddenly he's now a Khalistan supporter, he's a Khalistan campaigner, and even had Indian politicians sharing images online and demanding investigations into him. And poor Callum's having to put his hand up and say, look, whoa, you know, this is not me, you've got it all wrong. Anyway, but this is, as I say, it's the Hindutva forces in action. And he actually said to me, I'll quote, and I hope he doesn't mind me quoting his actual words, "I fear for the Indian youth. Their minds have been so warped by their government, it's sad." And again, this is a completely objective, independent observer of what's going on in J&K, in India, etc. And again, he has no stake in the game. He's got no particular partisan prejudice. He's just a young Scottish lad who's gone on exciting travels to go visit a region, to learn about this region. And he's come up with his conclusion completely independently. Now, we come up with the same conclusion, but we obviously have our own agenda. We're pro-Khalistan. But this is a completely independent observer who says, I fear for Indian youth. Their minds have been so warped by their government, it's sad. That simple statement speaks volumes. It's a very powerful statement that Callum said there. And again, it's just very indicative of genuinely what is going on in India. And this is why I appeal to our Punjabi viewers. Please get more people in India to watch this channel. You guys out there, obviously you're watching it, so you know the truth. But we need more people, particularly in the Punjab, but wider areas in India, to know what actually is the truth. That what you are being told by your government through this media is complete nonsense. It's deep propaganda. You need to know the truth. So please do spread the word. And he did, as a final comment, he did actually say, because I said obviously that I work with the Sikh community, and his words were, he recently spent time down at the Kartarpur corridor. I think he went up to the Gurdwara up there and spent time. Oh, yes, he said he spent time in the Gurdwara, and he said nice, pleasant people. So again, unsurprisingly, had a very, very positive interaction with the local Sikhs in Kartarpur and up at the Gurdwara there. So I do urge our audience, if you're interested in Callum, his handle is @Callum, that's CALLUM abroad. Go have a look at his vlog. It's fascinating. Just if you're interested in travel, and of course many of you are very familiar with India and Punjab, but if you would like to watch his videos and actually just get his insight into, and again like me is a relatively independent observer, or he is an independent observer of the culture there, and it makes fascinating reading. So do go have a look at Callum's blog. So thank you, Callum, and best of luck for the future, staying out of Hindutva's way. Right, let's move on. And we're running out of time already. Gosh, I said we had a packed show. New Zealand. We had, let me just get back to here so we can start to see this guy. Ooh, look at those eyes. Doesn't this send sort of shivers of, ooh. This is the guy, Brian Tamaki. He is the man behind those attacks on the Nagar Kirtan in New Zealand. I did a bit of digging after all the reports I did about the two Nagar Kirtans in 3 weeks that were essentially assaulted by the people, the followers of this cult leader, Brian Tamaki. And I wanted to know more about this guy, more about this cult, this Christian extremist cult. These are the white guys doing the hacker and being deeply aggressive and, I have to say, pretty unpleasant people, saying keep New Zealand for New Zealanders, obviously ignoring the irony that they themselves are immigrants, that they themselves have no more right to be in New Zealand than the Sikhs that they accuse of likewise being. So anyway... But this Brian Tamaki, and again, you only need to look at this photo just to even... I always hate to judge just by appearance, but that photo in itself, I think even our audience can probably see the evil in those eyes. I'm sorry to say, but you just look at that, and it just... if a picture paints 1,000 words, I think that picture speaks probably 10,000. And this is his own picture. This is his social media sort of picture, his PR picture. Obey the word of the Lord, or else. And again, and I'm going to just run through. This is one of his posts, which gives an indication of his feelings and explains a lot of why they attacked the Nagar Kirtan. I'm going to go through this post. This is his beliefs. And I want you to compare and contrast. I'm going through this deliberately because I want you to compare and contrast with the beliefs of Sikh. And this is his beliefs. He's a religious leader. Now, one assumes that a religious leader would actually manifest the goodness of his religion, would manifest what his religion has to offer humanity in terms of goodness, positivity. This instead is what he believes in. He says there's huge unrest around the world at the moment. He's absolutely right. There's war in the West, invasion of the beast from the East. Ooh, what does that mean? What's going on? Multiculturalism and freedom of religion. These two deadly and dangerous doorways give the beast from the East access to invade the West and destroy it. So, what's he after? Countries who were built on Christian values. He has to destroy that faith first, then subjugate that nation to satanic influence, which ultimately destroys nations. So what he's saying is this beast, this satanic beast from the East, he of course is talking primarily about Islam, but in that same umbrella, again, he's making, I suppose, a similar mistake that many of these idiots do, is that they just they throw every religious minority or even majority under the umbrella of Islam. Anyway, he says... Even now, most would quickly defend at least one, if not both of these, either multiculturalism or freedom of religion. But what he says, these are both evil and wicked before God. I love that, how the way he assumes he can speak on behalf of God. But anyway, why would they anger God? So he explains why he believes multiculturalism and freedom of religion actually anger God. Firstly, he says multiculturalism is his English is terrible. But anyway, he says vetchal. What he means is vehicle. Multiculturalism is the vehicle that carries false religions. In other words, what he's saying, there is only one religion. That's my religion, Christianity. All other religions should be banned, essentially, is what he's saying. Many foreign gods with it into Christian countries. So he's saying other religions are coming into Christian countries, defiling these Christian countries, inciting God's anger on those nations who don't tolerate, allow and accept this into the political and social life of that country. In other words, they're angering God, his God. This is why the most powerful statement true Christians can say, there is only one God who is true. So there's no tolerance here, there's no understanding. And again, I say compared to Sikh, where Sikh don't just tolerate other religions, their whole ethos is to respect and to encourage other religions to continue worshipping their version of God, whether it's Allah, God, or whoever. Jesus Christ, the way, the truth, and the life. No man can get to God except through him, he says. Allah, Buddha, Hindu, Sikh, Muhammad, atheist, no religion, secular, Baha'i, whatever your belief, they're all false if Jesus Christ only isn't in it. I mean, his English is terrible. Half of this doesn't make any sense. But he says there is only one true religion, Christianity. The rest are demonic counterfeits. According to him, Sikh, amongst all other religions, are demonic. It's satanic. It is devil worshipping. I'm sure you guys have got some opinion on that. Please keep it polite. He carries on. There is only one true religion, Christianity. He talks about freedom. This is a weird one. I thought, how on earth can you say freedom of religion is satanic? He said it's seen as a noble human rights mantra. Of course it is. The freedom to practice religion, whatever your religion is. But he says it is actually satanic, this whole concept of freedom of religion. He said it's one of the most deceptive lies from the globalists to further crush Christianity. To God, it's an ugly stench. So he's actually claiming that God thinks it's an ugly stench to have freedom of religion. I'm laughing because it's so bizarre. It's a false passport for the acceptance and toleration of all other demonic religions and gods against the truth. So in other words, what his premise is saying, if you have the freedom to practice your religion, it's satanic because it means it's going to anger God, his version of God, because every other religion and every other god that people worship, it must be Satan, must be a devil. As he said, it's an ugly stench to God. These imposters and false religions claim immunity and validity in Christian countries because of that one deceptive statement. God himself says he hates the fact that man would equalise the one true God and Christianity with every other man-concocted religion, God and ideology. So he actually claims to speak, this is the arrogance of the man. He claims to speak on behalf of God. I'm sure God himself is probably looking at Brian Tamaki and shaking his head in despair, probably. That's the least of it. But anyway, Tamaki claims to speak for God, to say that God hates the fact that man would equalise the one true God with any other religion. In other words, that we would have this freedom of religion. This alone has wrecked and destroyed mankind more than we could ever imagine. Now, interestingly, I would actually ironically agree with part of that statement in that religions have been actually the cause of so many wars globally throughout history. How many wars have we fought over religion? Too many to mention. So he's actually ironically right in that respect. While evil secularists and non-religious people scoff and mock at this, God said, "I will not be mocked." Really? So he's speaking for God again. He rewards or punishes nations according to your response to those two evils. The Bible is clear. Nothing makes God more angry than the toleration of other religions and gods alongside himself. He says those nations bring a curse upon themselves, etc., etc. And he goes on. Again, it's just such drivel. Let me skip ahead. It alarms me how easily populations, including Christians, buy into these two satanic destroyers of civilizations. In other words, multiculturalism and freedom of religion. They're saying, why are Christian countries buying into these concepts? Well, primarily because it's all about the goodness of humanity. This is what your democracy that you believe in. Democracy is founded on the principle of freedom of expression, freedom to practice religion. Sorry, mate, but that is a basic tenet, a fundamental principle, pillar of democracy. Clearly, you don't believe in democracy. You believe in a Christian theocracy, an authoritarian Christian dictatorship, essentially, is what this guy is supporting. Ultimately, if you condense this into a summary, is that there is only one God, and if you don't follow it, you're a follower of Satan. Therefore, you're evil. So God help us if this guy takes control of the world. Nations must eliminate both to be a blessed nation, multiculturalism and dangerous UN statement, freedom of religion. Any nation wanting peace, prosperity, safety and happiness for their children's children can never have it unless a nation and its people boldly proclaim Jesus Christ is Lord of its nation. Don't bother about your opinion. When truth turns up, there's no room for your opinion. It's not my words, it's God's. Obey or die. Choose. So, obey or die. I'm just going to flick back up to that. Obey or die. This is what this guy's saying. This guy, you can make up your own conclusions. I don't even need to make up my own summary of this. I think, read through his posts. Have a look at that guy's face. This guy is a zealot. He's a dangerous zealot. Obey or die. That's his own words. That sort of guy. This is a religious guy. This is a guy who's trying to persuade people to join the Christian church. All he is a cult leader. He's an extremist. He's a dangerous guy. He frankly doesn't belong in any civilized democratic society. I mean, yes, we all. I respect his freedom of expression. I respect his right to say this, but also he needs to respect my right and our right to say, you're a lunatic, mate. You don't belong in a civilized society. You and your followers need to wake up. You are in a cult of whatever. I'm not even going to waste any more breath on this. But there you go. As I say, I just wanted to cover that just to give you a clue, an insight into who this guy is. And as I say, he's a very dangerous individual. Right, quickly wrap up with a quick summary of this is follow on again. Sort of the editorials have been running this week about the whole Khalistan issue and how India is sort of dealing with it, particularly domestically and in the diaspora. And there has been, I talked yesterday about how RAW is being restructured to take on the secessionist movements like Khalistan, and particularly Naxalism as well, which has been a very clear problem for the Indian government for many years, certainly since 1947. And the Ministry of Home Affairs has set itself a deadline of later this year to crush, finally, once and for all, the Naxalite rebellion. The Naxalite rebellion, this red corridor as it's called, has been in existence obviously for several decades, and it is a secessionist movement. It's based around Maoism. It's been promoted by particularly I think China and the communist regimes who got heavily involved in Indian politics, particularly in the 1960s and around that sort of period. But it generated this Naxalism. It's based around Marxism. It's it's a very far left ideology. But ultimately, what it really was about, the fundamental part of it, was it's all about socialism. It's about why is the elite crushing the lower caste? It was basically it was a rebellion against the caste system and an appeal for autonomy. So that was a little bit of simple background to Naxalism. But this year, the MHA, the Ministry of Home Affairs, has initiated a massive internal security overhaul. And it's designed to mirror those structural changes that I talked about yesterday within RAW. And this domestic counter-secessionist doctrine is built around a firm deadline of, I said later this year, it's actually specifically, it's March the 31st. It's a deadline that the ministry has set itself to eliminate all internal insurgencies, but most noticeably this red terror, this red corridor of Naxalism, while simultaneously pivoting to address the sophisticated external support for Khalistani and Kashmiri separatists. So whilst addressing domestically the Naxal issue in central and eastern India, within this same deadline, they have set this sort of deadline to try and also crush the Khalistan and Kashmiri separatists. I mean, good luck with that. You've no chance. I'll tell you that for now, because those movements are growing. But so this internal security doctrine, total integration that they're looking at, under the direction of the ministry, the internal security strategy is shifted now from traditional policing to a different model, a model of technological domination and economic integration. Now, by this they mean it's a strategy that's designed to make the balkanisation of India not just difficult, but actually economically impossible for the local population. So they're changing. They realise that there is a genuine danger of the breakup of India, which is interesting now. They're actually recognising the fact that the whole construct of India is really in jeopardy, that there is a realistic chance that India could break up. So they've got this huge initiative now to try and prevent that, to try and make it economically impossible. In other words, let's integrate the economies so deeply that you can't split them apart and break them apart. So on this deadline of March the 31st, it claims India will be free, or at least it's set this goal of freeing India from this left-wing extremism, LWE as it's called. This is a critical milestone for Modi, because it's telling the world, it's sending a message out to the world, and particularly to the US, that India's core is stable, that we are a united nation. It's obviously a very important message that Modi needs. He doesn't want to. He needs to send this message out to try and tell Trump, as we talked about yesterday. Trump actually is now looking at India thinking, you know what, it's easier to control India if it's separated, if it's broken up. So Modi is now trying to reverse this by going back, sending this message, saying, no, we're united, we are an integrated country. And that is his goal. So as part of this Naxalist oppression, the Naxalist, at its peak, Naxalism was impacting 125 districts. As of now, it's down to just about a handful, about 10 or 11 residual districts, residual pockets of Naxalism. They're also looking at futuristic technology. The MHA, the ministry, is utilising state-of-the-art firearms and actionable intelligence collection to dismantle the final insurgent outposts. In other words, it's using its latest technology now, and it's directing the latest high-tech, cutting-edge technology to finally oppress Naxalism. And then what it calls green growth. This is a strategy to replace this atmosphere of fear with instead an atmosphere of what they call green growth. This is it's more of a carrot than a stick approach. In other words, we're not going to beat you into submission. We're going to encourage you to move away from naxalism by building schools and hospitals in remote areas to ensure that the local population has a stake in the Indian Union. In other words, it's seducing the naxalists into saying, look, we're better off. We can give you much more options. We can integrate you into a larger Indian nation because it offers you more than if you actually wanted to go independent, etc. So that sort of change in approach to how they deal with it. Again, it's gone to more carrot than stick, more incentive than beating it with oppression. So the urban Naxal and diaspora monitoring. So while the jungle insurgencies are declining, there's no question about that, the ministry is increasingly focused on what it calls urban Naxalism. Because, of course, there is this belief that Naxalism, it was out there in the jungles, it was very powerful in the villages and out there in the rural areas. But now that's been oppressed and suppressed, that the Naxalism, I did a specific podcast on this ages ago, actually, do look that out, where I described how Naxalism has now moved from the rural areas into the urban areas, where it's a lot harder to deal with. And these ideological and financial networks that link domestic Indian activists to international secessionist movements, of course, including Khalistan. This network is very powerful. So all these secessionist movements are connected to some degree, whether there is Khalistan, whether there is Naxalism, whether there is Kashmir or whatever, is that there are these financial links and ideological links. In other words, this belief that we are better together, we're stronger together. If we all join together to take on the Indian government, we have a much better chance. So the Indian governments recognise this. So they realise, okay, we need to break these bonds. And they do this through various means, including digital financial tracking. And this is in coordination with the intelligence units, the NIA, RAW, etc. They've deployed advanced algorithms to monitor these funding routes of separatists. So if they can track the flow of how payments are made between all these groups through crypto or what's called hawala payments from North America and Europe, in other words, these diaspora groups who are funding these secessionist movements, and of course Khalistan is a prime example of that, the government is aiming to choke those links, to choke the financial lifeblood of these movements without needing to engage in more direct, high-risk diplomatic confrontations. In other words, if they can choke off the funds to these groups from overseas, they'll close them down. Also, what they call legislative hardball, in other words, lawfare. This is using the law. So they've passed various laws in late 2025 allowing for the immediate seizure of properties belonging to designated individual terrorists living abroad. Yeah, this word terrorism again. So they're labelling these secessionists as terrorists, which again allows them to use these really dangerous laws, this lawfare, to close these people down, to seize their assets, to seize properties, and to particularly targeting the wealth of those advocating for the breakup of India from the safety in the US or Canada. So they're trying to, again, to reach out internationally now to close down these people overseas, to seize their assets or to use lawfare, even in their native countries, to try and close them down. Now, also, to seize the borderlands to prevent fragmentation. Now, to counter this narrative of the potential breakup of India, this again, we talk about this on a regular basis, the ministry has launched the Vibrant Villages programme. This is a new initiative in border states like the Punjab and J&K. Now, in the Khalistan buffer that we talk about, this whole idea that Khalistan would form this great buffer zone, in the Punjab, the ministry is focusing on de-radicalisation programmes and massive infrastructure investment. Well, again, I would question that sort of claim by the Indian state. We often talk about the economicide of Punjab, of how they're actually denuding, they're sucking investment out of Punjab. But they claim that they're now investing in the infrastructure to try and ensure that the young, particularly, are more aligned with the mainstream of development than with overseas separatist cause. In other words, look at us in Delhi. We're giving you all this money. We're investing in your region, in Punjab or in J&K. And that's coming from us, from Delhi. So you should align with us. Don't listen to those overseas diaspora people telling you that you're better off on your own. So again, that's one initiative. And likewise, another direction they're approaching this is federalism as a shield. Instead of the US-style federalist sort of model that ultimately would lead to fragmentation, Modi's government is promoting cooperative federalism. This is where states are given more economic power, but still remain tightly bound to the Union's security apparatus. What that basically means is they're giving some sort of level of economic autonomy, some sort of level of economic power, but ultimately it's so tightly integrated, deliberately integrated with central control that you can't break away. So this federation of, at least on the face of it, you've got some economic control over your own state, but ultimately that cannot exist without central control from Delhi. It's got these links that are almost unbreakable. In other words, it's seducing them, saying, look, you're getting some control for yourself, but ultimately it comes tied in with Delhi. In other words, don't break away. So by this deadline of March the 31st, the ministry is effectively telling Trump and the US State Department that India is not a fragile state. It's not ripe for regime change or even breaking up. It's saying that we have, as a nation, economic resilience. A stable interior allows India to continue its energy deals with Russia, its leadership in the BRICS economies, but without fear of a domestic collapse, triggered, of course, by external factors and external, what it calls bad actors. And it also follows this concept of sovereignty first. So the ministry's this new aggressive stance against ideological red terror, or indeed the Khalistan movement or the Kashmiri separatists, it's serving as a warning. And again, it's a very historic sort of concept, this, but it's sending out a warning message that any attempt by foreign powers to use secessionist movements as a lever will be met with the full technologically advanced force of the Indian state. Well, that's the ministry fighting back. So that basically is. So I'll just show you. See those sort of final sort of points. But basically, what the ministry is saying, the Ministry of Home Affairs is saying, is butt out. Is that we are now launching this initiative, but by March 31st, we will have buried the secessionist movements. And the message to the US and to the West is don't try and break us up, because we are now tightening up. We are tightening control, we are integrating, and we are making it more interesting for our people in the Punjab or Kashmir to be part of a united India. That's the message they're trying to put together, that we are a united India, that you cannot break us up, and don't even try. That's their version of it. The truth is, the reality is quite the opposite. The truth is, India is slowly but surely fragmenting, driven by, ironically, the very RSS Hindutva extremists. Their push for a Hindu Rashtra is doing the work for the secessionist movements for them. It is already driving wedges between all the various groups, the various regions around India, whether it is J&K, whether it is Khalistan, whether it's Tamil Nadu, whether it's Manipur, the eastern states. Or Kerala, for that matter. All these states are feeling increasingly divergent from Delhi. Those cracks are widening. The movements for secessionism, whether it is Naxalism, that Naxalism is admittedly on the decline, but Khalistan movement, J&K separatist movements, they are on the increase. Their support is increasing. That is what India's terrified about. It set itself a deadline. Good luck with that deadline. It ain't gonna happen, guys. I'm sorry to disappoint you. India is likely to break up. It's only a question of when, not if. Right, there you go. Well, we must move on now, because I've only got 3 minutes to cover our comments. Good heavens. Sadly, we must rush to our comments. I might have to skip some of these because, again, we're running out of time. BKara says, loads of Hindutva RSS IT cells, fake IDs. Oh, how often? Yes, absolutely. We've talked about this a lot. Fake IDs, people pretending to be Sikhs, etc. It is a huge problem right across all comments columns, across social media, etc. It's about time we're given the promised land, as we were during the time of Maharaja Ranjit Singh Ji, a buffer state and a close ally with the US. Couldn't put it better myself. Absolutely agree. The person, again, same theme. This Balwanda Singh uses disrespectful language, talking about Bindranwale Ji. Is clearly not a Singh or a Sikh. He's hiding behind the fake ID. Another one, absolutely. And then Satbachan Singh says, truth tellers, lots of respect to both of you. Thank you. Stay safe. Again, stay safe comes back saying, we are united. Yeah, not many real ones out there, many fakes out there. common theme. But we, the rest of us, are united. Thank you. That's an important point there. We are all united. We are the family, the Satledge family. Thank you. I hope you don't mind me calling that. But we have a lot of loyal following. We are part of the same family. We're all aligned, generally speaking, on most of these issues. Balvinder Jit Nagy. It's never good to put all your eggs in one basket. India is better broken up, basically. It's better to deal with a broken up India. Totally agree. Satbachan Singh comes back. Please must also include Christians of the Seven Sisters states, genocide by the Indian government of Hindustan. I would also refer you to the podcast I did last week, Dr. Growell. We talked about the persecution of Christians. If you want to know how bad it's got, and it follows Nazi ideology, the persecution of Christians, particularly in Manipur and the Seven Sisters states, is shocking. Absolutely shocking. Satnam Khalsa. Many thanks to you. Hopefully Mr. Trump will look at India next. Yeah, absolutely. We do know. He's a deal maker. And Bobby Singh says Khalistan leaders need to lobby hard. Yes, absolutely. Now is the time to be lobbying Trump. Trump, as I said, is a deal maker. Dipper, 84, disagrees. Dipper thinks Trump is no friend of Sikhs. But what I would say to you, actually, is Trump is a deal maker. He might not be a friend of Sikhs. He might be a friend of Sikhs. It almost doesn't matter. All Trump cares about is what is good for America. MAGA, the MAGA movement. If he thinks the establishment of Khalistan is good for America, good for deal making, he'll make it happen. It doesn't matter to him if he likes Sikhs or not. If Khalistan works for his agenda, he will make it happen. That's why it's crucial that we get Trump on board. Whether you like him or hate him, get him on board. He will potentially make it happen. Now, Punjab. Sorry for rushing through this, Punjab. A lot of points you make in here. And again, I'm just running out of time. But the way Trump, you basically have a real diatribe, a really anti-Trump sort of diatribe. Absolutely, that is your prerogative. And you say that Sikhs will be stupid if they believe Trump will get them their homeland. I don't know. Again, as I said, it doesn't matter if he is a friend of Sikhs or not. If he thinks Khalistan works for the interests of the United States, and for many reasons, as we've explained in the past, it should do, then he could get may very well get behind the concept. Final point, how long before China takes over Taiwan? Yeah, good question. That's a very good question. And this ultimately is what I believe is behind Trump's whole agenda. Is he's building he's putting all his chess pieces in place to take on China. God forbid that we ever go to war with China, but it is likely that sometime in the future we will have an issue with China. We already do. We know it's a threat, but China is the big problem. That is the big bogeyman, the big potential enemy. And I believe all Trump's movements, whether it's Greenland, whether it's Venezuela, all these issues, and now Khalistan. This is why I think he might align behind Khalistan, is because ultimately his horizon is China. Khalistan forms a beachhead, a military beachhead, literally on China's doorstep. This is why I think Trump should look at Khalistan. Final set, Manjit Kaur. Manjit always pops in periodically. Hi Manjit, hello to you too. And just to say a hi to you, thank you for continuing to follow the channel. Thank you, I guess you're still there watching our videos. Thank you Manjit, I know you've been there for a long time. You do pop in periodically with a little hello. So it's a little hello back to you Manjit. Thank you for being there and thank you for staying with us. Amrit Saravar, it's a one-man show now Angus, keep up the good work. I know it's all me alone. I do feel terribly lonely. We still miss James desperately, but hopefully it's not too bad with just me. I'm still here doing as much as I can and continuing the show. Jess TV, great show. Very useful information. Keep up the good work. That's key word there. Useful information. I hope it is. If you think it's not useful, let me know. If you've got any feedback, let me know. Send me an email, send me a message. Let me know your thoughts. If there's something you'd like me to cover, etc., etc. So thank you for that. Suk Chain Bath. Waheguru Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ki Fateh to everyone. Indeed. Let me send that back to everyone on your behalf, Suk Chain. Narendra Singh Saini, thanks a lot for this very powerful message. Today's programme should be seen by everyone. That's an important comment. It should be seen by everyone. And it can only happen partly from our side. We do our best to get the word out there. But it's up to you guys in the audience. Please get out there, spread the word, get more people to see the show. If you're in the Punjab, particularly if you're in India, get more people on the ground to watch the show. Please, we need more people watching the show. Please do subscribe and all the good stuff like that. And finally, signing off, Bikram Singh and Mahinder Pal Singh. Khalistan Zindabad. Sat Sri Akal to you guys. We're going to wrap up there. We're well over time as usual, but thanks so much for watching. Do keep your comments coming in. Do let us know if you've got any thoughts. Thank you to so many of you who've sent some really interesting links in. All appreciated, all acknowledged. Thank you for those. If you think there's something I should know about, if you want me to follow up on a story, story, do let me know. I've got a fascinating podcast coming, or at least an editorial coming up at this end of this week. Events in Hounslow. If you're in Britain, you'll obviously know about it. I've got fascinating. I've been in touch with some interesting organisations about that. So do watch at the end of the week a Satledge TV special on that. But in the meantime, do let me know your thoughts, let me know your opinions, your perspectives, and do comment below or send me a message directly at message@satledgetv.com. But that's it for another day. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you for your loyalty. It's very much appreciated. And all being well, I will see you again tomorrow.